Wonder Dust.
What is the secret of your power?
What is the secret of your powers? We're gonna be talking about this beer that we haven't made in just over 3 years. This was one of the first beers we made that I got really excited about. Now, in 3 years, our process has changed a ton, and we're making almost a different style of hazy IPA now. We decided to revisit it, to go back and keep the original intent of the beer, but use our modern dry hop processes and overall brewhouse technique to elevate it. So let's taste it. This smells like peaches, kind of like a sweet cotton candy peach character, ton of just orange juice. Oh yeah, slightly danky, super refreshing, but with still a very soft, easy-going mouthfeel. This beer balances both an old school kind of diesel, dank, grassy character with a new school peach, cotton candy, orange juice character. And I think that's what made this beer so successful. Anyone who picks it up will find something they like, and it never feels over the top. This would be something you'd want to take to a barbecue with you. For someone who likes Lagunitas, you'll have the familiar grassy note. For someone who wants Treehouse, Julius, like it's got plenty of those juice characteristics. And we were able to do this with a new yeast. It took slightly different fermentation profile to get there. We've gotten to the point where we can manipulate that yeast and make it do what we want. This beer was kind of the heyday of when we were making our dust beers. Those recipes relied on just a 2-row base malt, a little bit of wheat, a little bit of, in this case, rye or oats. We'd alternate kind of between the two. In my opinion, they both provide a great mouthfeel. Oats have more bready, oaty character, where rye is, in my opinion, a little cleaner. But we'd finish these beers pretty dry, even drier than, say, a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale most of the time. If you know our beers, Juicy Couture is a very similar beer, but focused heavily on the Citra. This one is heavily focused on the Mosaic. Mosaic, Citra, Simcoe. And now because we have it and because there's no reason to not improve our beers, I added just a little bit of Nelson. Nelson in large quantities gives you beautiful white wine characteristics. It can be diesel-y, can be dank. In just small amounts, it helps elevate, I think, the overall aroma characteristics by providing a different note than just a regular juicy aroma. So I think that's what it does here. It just helps elevate all the other characters. We also have the ability now to use cryo hops. Cryo hops are hops that have had most of the vegetal matter removed and the oils concentrated using a high pressure supercritical CO2 extraction process. I love them. They do a lot for our production schedule. They've been a great addition to what we do. Throwing some Mosaic cryo in here is what really amps this beer up. I will say I feel like oftentimes in the past when we made beers this light, we struggled with getting super intense aroma or super intense, dense flavor profile. But when you have a beer like this that is pretty dry, there is an amped up malt character, amped up water profile, and with this amped up hop usage and very selective usage, you get this really dense character. But you taste it and you get all the juice. It's very easy to drink, very low bitterness. It's no wonder this beer is so popular. This is a great time to talk about what is now our house hazy IPA strain, which is Imperial Juice. So the main difference between Imperial Juice and the Conan is the attenuation and perceived ester profile. Conan, or Vermont ale that came from Alchemist Heady Topper, very flavorful yeast, very extreme peach character, and oftentimes in the tanks, I would argue, why are we even dry hopping this beer? This thing tastes so good before any dry hops. But it was also an awesome attenuator, and nothing bad about that. You can get really dry beers. But we struggled sometimes balancing a flavor profile, a sugar profile in the beers because it would attenuate so far. That problem also was exacerbated by hop creep, which is when you dry hop a beer, some enzymes in the hops actually cause a re-fermentation of the beer. So this is something that we're all working to deal with. One of the solutions we've come up with is actually switching yeast to this arguably lazier yeast. It's a London 3 variant, formerly of Y yeast. It's an English strain, potentially Boddington's. There is no real history behind it, or at least on the internet, my 3 Google searches haven't found me anything. It does leave beers a little sweeter in general, and at the same time helps us keep a much more consistent final gravity and flavor profile. We have a cat here. That's Hamachi Monster. He rules this place. He's like a kaiju. London 3, potentially not as flavorful of a yeast, and in some ways is actually better for letting the hops shine because it stays out of the way. But because it doesn't attenuate, we've had to learn how to use it differently. In case in point, we had to do very, very aggressive fermentation profile and mash regimen in order to get it to a similar final gravity as the original Wonder Dust. Imperial Juice and London 3 is becoming a workhorse for the hazy IPA industrial complex. that you have all helped create. It's a great beer. I think a lot of the hazy IPAs we make are delicious. They're kind of like almost showcase beers, but this is the kind of beer I want to drink all the time.